Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting this evening. We have a number of items on the agenda and a number of members of the public in participation. We will start with number 1 on the agenda, which is the public participation session, which is an opportunity for members of the public to make any representations to the Town Council on matters on the agenda or of public interest. So we do have 15 minutes in total for this. I believe Mr Sandbach was the first in the room. Ms Sandbach, would you like to find yourself somewhere, maybe in front of Councillor Kerr? If I can just ask you to introduce yourself.
My name's David Sandbach. I don't live in Oswestry, unfortunately. I live in Shrewsbury. But I've come here tonight to say a few words about the GP out-of-hours service. I know it's on your agenda. And indeed, I must congratulate you because I think you're the only council that I'm aware of that's actually discussing this matter at a formal council meeting. So well done, Oswestry. In September of last year, the ICB had what's called an online invitation to give views about the out-of-hours service. Later on, it held a focus group of 10 people, 10 individuals to talk about out-of-hours services. They've done that, but what they've not done is they've actually not published the results of that consultation. They tell us in the press that they've done it and they've heard it, but they haven't actually published the results of that consultation. Administratively, that is wrong. You wouldn't do it, other councils wouldn't do it, so why are they telling us they've done something and not published the outcome of what was said? 600 people took part in the online, including myself, I've got to say, and yet we don't know what these people have said. And that's wrong. First of all, the preferred provider is, I believe, part of a string of companies, and it's actually it's part of a multinational. The company that owns Med-Vivo is called Health Hero. Health Hero has, last time I looked, 14 other companies. They are effectively a tech company, but they've branched out into other areas. So it's not an SME, and that is very, very important, because if you look on the at the paperwork published by the ICB, they've ticked themselves as being an SME. They are not an SME, and therefore they shouldn't really have been allowed to compete. The rules, I've sent you all the paper. The rules about what an SME is no more than 250 people staff and no more than 50 million turnover. Well, the parent companies wipe that out completely. They're massive. Now, the out-of-hours services are very important, and to be handed over to a not-for-profit service, to a for-profit organisation, when we have a local not-for-profit service which has served our interests, all of us, for at least 30 years, I find is quite ridiculous. And I've got to say it, but it looks like somebody wants to privatise the NHS around this place, if I'm honest, because that's what's going on. Certain parts of our service going into private ownership. So why? And the question is, well, there must have been something wrong with the service that was provided, that the management took the ump at. Well, if they want to take the ump, they might as well privatise SATH, because SATH is a failing organisation. What the one follows the other. So what I really worry about, having worked in the health service pretty much all my life, is this sort of creeping, insidious, obnoxious little movement that there is in the management of the NHS. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Sandbach. Any other members of the public that wish to speak this evening? Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to come to the corner to... Yeah, just a reminder, we have got 15 minutes in its entirety, so...
Okay, yes. I'll just very briefly say I'm here concerning the No Mo May item, which I think is at the end of the session. But I just want to say that I think this could be a really wonderful opportunity for Oswestry to start to do really wonderful things in terms of rewilding little bits of Oswestry, making it more pleasant, more attractive. And I know that, having talked to some of the people who actually do the work, that they're worried about tidiness and neatness. And of course, nature isn't tidy and neat. But in respect of that, maybe certainly in some places, we could get them to mow a little bit of a kind of path around the wildflower area or the wilded area to show that it's deliberate, and maybe even put a notice there. And I also think maybe we could train the people who do the job to understand how nature works, because they worry about tidiness, but I think they don't understand how, there are seasons for everything, and yes, in the autumn and winter it looks different, but it's a place for insects and grubs and things which we need, we know, to survive over the winter. So I'd say please vote for it. Okay.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Is there any other members of the public that wish to speak?
Thank you. My name's Stephen Mitchell, and I want to speak about the Shrop Dock arrangement. As the gentleman here just said, it's been about 30 years since the co-op out-of-house services began. And 30 years ago, I worked for one which was called DDoC, Dudley Doctors on Call. And I worked for them for, I think, 15 years. It was a very successful situation in Dudley, and it was a non-for-profit organisation, a registered charity indeed. When the contract came up for tender, they were outbid by a company called PrimeCare, and the contract was awarded to PrimeCare. PrimeCare belonged, or probably still does, to Bupa, which is very much a for-profit organisation. And the service that was provided by Dudley Doctors on Call absolutely collapsed. Bupa was a disaster. And although they were doing it at a lower price than DDoC had done, obviously they were because they got the contract, they undercut DDoC's bid. You could see why they undercut, because the service just wasn't there. It was dreadful. I'd be very, very disturbed to think that such a thing could happen in this area. Please vote against it.
Thank you ever so much. Anybody else that wishes to speak this evening? Are you okay? You good? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. We will, of course, take all of your comments into consideration when we discuss later in terms of what we as a council can do. So thank you. We then move on to 2A, which is apologies for absence. Have we got any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence from the Mayor.
Anybody else?
Yep. Councillor Milner and Councillor Cassin.
Okay. Are we all happy to accept those apologies? Accepted. Thank you very much, councillors. We move on to 2B, which is the disclosure of councillors' interests of any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I'll move from my left all the way around to the right. Just let me know if there's anything. Councillor Coburn.
Yes, I declare an interest in relation to the shop dock matter. My wife does occasional shifts for shop dock.
Okay. Are you going to leave the room at that point? Thank you. Moving around the room, anybody else? No, brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, we then move on to number 3, which is the minutes. So we're just seeking approval on the attached minutes from the council meeting the 15th of January, the last one, and also to note the meeting minutes for planning committee on the 22nd of January. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Perfect.
Can you sign up, please?
Of course I will.
Thank you very much. Trying to pass the book over other as well.
Happily.
Get it out of the way.
There we go. Thank you. So tonight for number 4 we are joined by Councillor Macy. Thank you. Portfolio holder for Culture and Digital, which includes land adjacent to the leisure centre and that is kind of signposted for leisure activities. So thank you for coming this evening. And I think what we're hoping to get from this evening is an understanding of what the next steps are. So as a council, I think we made in July of 21 a kind of appreciation of our interest in the land, and further interests and further information swapped between us, 22, 23, we've looked at heads of terms, but nothing's happened ever since. So I think as a council we've kind of gone back to that concept, and we were just hoping for some understanding of the process and any progress, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me along. Obviously, the land we're talking about is a sizable piece of land next to the existing leisure centre. I know it's been in the ownership of Shropshire Council for some time now, and obviously there's been a building interest in what we put there. Obviously, you've got the new housing developments that have come online that are adjacent to it, so we now know pretty much what we're getting there and how that's impacting in the sort of the housing that we're seeing. So that's helped form part of the picture. So what we're looking at in terms of the land is we are looking at an updated process of how do we get maximum value out of the land. So from our point of view, we've been looking your sort of conversations, and we've had Aaron along to speak to us, so I was clear, because I've not been the portfolio holder for the whole time you're talking about. So I've had a series of meetings with the officers. I've spoken with the local members, one of which you've got in the room tonight, about what the community is reflecting to them that's needed down on the site. And I think the conclusion that we've come to at the moment is that there are we've done an asset review of the council of things like our leisure facilities and leisure centres across the county and so on. One of the things we've identified is we're probably going to need some room for expansion down there at some point for things around the leisure centre, obviously with the new housing and so on that's come down there. We've had some other suggestions in terms of sort of things that could be down there. We've got an understanding of what's sort of missing in terms of sporting provision and so on down on the site. So I think what we've done at this point is the officers have confirmed to me they're just trying to identify a small pot of money to do a feasibility study for that area. We are keen on what the town council. So the feasibility would look at the site as a whole, what's the latent demand, the town council's proposals, what we need in terms of expanding the leisure centre, what is missing in terms of provision around Oswestry that could be sited on there, and we've also got the thing that precludes into all the developments around the biodiversity net gain and what are we doing with that. So that would be what the feasibility study looked at. In terms of the specific proposals around pump tracks and other things like that, personally, I'm quite keen. I've been off, I've done a bit of research, I've been to different styles of pump tracks and so on. I've seen the sort of range that you can get. So what we are looking at is we do that feasibility study as a way of bringing all of that together, plus the other ideas, and actually building that's the way forward in terms of what do people need from it. And then at the end of that, the idea would be that you've got that clear plan for how you take it forward. It might well be that we say, yes, the pump track is a good element of that. That should be leased to the town council to develop out, and that's that part of the land and so on. But that felt like, with the conversations I've had, and I know, again, speaking to the local members, there are other parties who are interested in and have got ideas for. So this is just the way to bring that together and put the pieces of the jigsaw together, so you've got something you can then go out and go, that's it, that's what we want to do. We want to do a great job on it.
And has any of that involved any public consultation in terms of understanding what the public actually want? On
Yes,
the
so
land?
that would be the feasibility works.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, that would be the point where we're saying to people, okay, this is the piece of the land, it's now 2025, what's the best use, what do we need to do with that?
Okay, and
But
plans for
certainly
that, really.
what the town council are proposing, it's not saying, absolutely not, we don't want to do that, it's saying that's quite an exciting bit of it, but we see it as an element of the total site.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Macy, for coming along. I have a letter of support from Merryn Stevens from English Heritage. There's a level of concern around the hill fort. There's been an awful lot of damage done to the hill fort by downhill cycles and people just generally using the area as a bike track. This has included as of very recently, a second time now that the Kissing Gate's been damaged there to allow people to get through with their bicycles. English Heritage are very keen for the town council's idea of employing a pump track, because they feel obviously this is then going to hopefully bring some of those bikers away from the hill fort and from that heritage asset and into a more controlled environment. Is that something you'd like me to forward on to yourself and bring it? Something that me, Helen Morgan, and English Heritage have been working on very closely for a while now, and it seems like a very strong bid, I feel, from the town council to do this. So I think that'd be something that'd be quite useful for you in your role to be able to feed in as well.
I think from my point of view, I think that side of it, and certainly the pump track element and so on, the town council has been taking that lead on it. And I think what I'd probably say is that if you can help build the case for the pump track element, it doesn't have to be just the town council or anybody else. But I think that's, to send it to me at the moment, as I say, we're going to get the feasibility works up and running. The pump track has obviously initially come as a town council proposal. I don't know if you want to feed, I think probably the best way of doing that is feeding in and supporting that, and then that would come into when we're having the discussions around the feasibility.
Okay, Councillor Kerr.
Sitting here, it sounds like a sort of 12-year version of Groundhog Day, because it sounds all very grand to want to do a plan for the land, but you did that in 2012. We went as far as getting planning permission to set out where there would be a mugger on the land, where there would be provision for a skateboard park on the land. A beautiful blueprint was prepared, and in those days, Shropshire Council had lots of money. For 5 years, it didn't put the council tax up. It was that wealthy, it could do that, and we still didn't get anything built there. So the idea that now, given the huge financial constraints Shropshire Council is under, we all appreciate that, the idea it's going to find the money to deliver what the planning produces, I very, very much doubt. And I think it's just been mischievous with people's beliefs to actually suggest that that's going to actually happen in the reality of the financial situation it's in. It is a large area of land. The pump track would only occupy a small part of it. There is no reason on earth why you can't divide that off, keep access to the rest of the land, and take that rest of the land through in whatever process you deem appropriate. This week it was reported in the Shropshire Star that Ellesmere Town Council have approached you with a view to putting a pump track. Admittedly, I think it's on their land, I'm not too sure about that, but it's reported in the paper that Shropshire Council have said, yes, we'll pay for a quarter of it. So I can't quite understand why Ellesmere, within 1 week, seem to be able to get a quarter of their pump track paid for. Oswestry's had to wait 14 years and is now told it's going to wait again, whilst another whole lot of consultation is done. That will result in another planned application. Well, I mean, that would take another 3 or 4 years, and another generation of kids will grow up using the hill fort because there is no provision in this town for a pump track, and that's a shocking state of affairs.
I note your scepticism. I would hope to prove you wrong on in terms of the timescales you're talking about. I mean, I sit here as someone with a 4-year-old who loves pump tracks. We go to the Mere, we go to the one that's there. I would love to see a pump track in in Oswestry. I think this is the way, as you've said, in terms of the finances, they are tight. There is money available, but they are tight. I note that previously you've said the town council's got the money and so on, so we certainly wouldn't turn down funding partners in terms of looking at the site and what can be delivered on there. So, but I think this is the way that this brings it together for what do we need now. And it's, as I said, as I alluded to earlier, it doesn't preclude the idea of parts of the site then becoming leased over and partnered on. But it's important we get the things like the access and the other bits right to the site.
Okay, councillors, I think we need to move on to the rest of our aspects. But Councillor Rose, please.
Yes, as you know, we've just done a petition recently. Oh, I often again. It's not working, is it?
Patience, it just needs a... There we go, and it just then needs...
I've done that.
But you can speak. I think we can hear you.
You think it's just the light that's not working? Sorry, okay, it's just the light that's not working. Never mind. Yes, we've recently done a petition to Shropshire Council. I know that at least there's enough that it will go to a scrutiny committee there, and I imagine it will be the same kind of response. It does just feel ridiculous that permission was given 15 years ago and nothing's happened. So it's obviously deemed to be a suitable site. We have got the money to do it. We've been trying to sort of negotiate for ages. It just seems ridiculous to delay it any further, to not just choose a bit of land that you think is suitable, that we think is suitable, and just go ahead with it and look at your consultation on the rest, because these things are really expensive as well. I can't believe that anyone's even going to get money together to do another consultation, but it has already been decided. It's a great need for it, and there's loads of people behind it. So I know you've said you support it, so I hope you'll put a bit more strength into trying to move it forward.
Councillor Macy, I do want to bring this discussion to an end, but I think one of the questions is around your feasibility study. We've done plenty of feasibility studies as a council, and we're really aware of how much these things cost. Do you know how much a feasibility study is going to cost for that parcel of land?
No, that's the conversation I've had. That's the conversation I've had on the back of offices after Aaron had attended, after spoken to the local members and so on. That's where I tasked them with of go away, work up what does that need to be to take this forward.
And is that something that you would consider Oswestry Town Council paying for to expedite?
If you're willing to make the offer, I am quite happy to take that back as a proposer to them. As I say, at the moment, it's a good piece of land. It can serve Oswestry well. We just need to get the right things on it, and then, as you say, get on with those.
Okay. I think, councillors, we've had a good, thorough discussion on that one. I hope you agree. Thank you very much, Councillor Macy, for answering our questions and being thorough. Appreciate that one. Okay. 2 minutes and we will move on to Saffron. So we move on to our second speaker of the evening, Saffron Rayleigh, who is one of our trustees, or one of the trustees, sorry, at Shropshire Cycle Hub, just to provide an update on progress with the Cycle Hub. If I can just ask you to turn the mic on, that would be...
I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you, Saffron.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to thank Oswestry Town Council for being such an important partner to Shropshire Cycle Hub, and your support over the past few years has been fundamental in kind of the way we are developing, and particularly how we're developing the Oswestry Hub as the centre of operations for Shropshire Cycle Hub. So I was just going to, I did have a presentation, but we don't have that, so I hope if you'll bear with me, so I go through what I was going to say, but I just want to give you what sort of background of where we are with the Cycle Hub. So our vision is a county where cycling empowers individuals, unites communities, and contributes to a sustainable future. And our mission is to build a cycling-friendly county through advocacy, resources, and inclusive programs that contribute to achieving active lifestyles and an environmental sustainability. So we have three operations currently in, well, three centres of operations in Shropshire, In Wellington, we have a last mile delivery service, which is free, run by volunteers. We have 2 cargo bikes, and that runs principally out to the market in Wellington, but also serves a number of shops on the high street. That's very, very successful and well supported in Wellington. In Shrewsbury, we have just started a last mile delivery service. We have 6 volunteers working again, principally out of the central market in Shrewsbury, but also increasing number of high street shops. Also doing some interesting B2B delivery services between different businesses in the town. And we're actually a kind of pathfinder for the big town plan for Shrewsbury, which is actually out to tender for a last mile delivery bicycle service in the town. I think, you know, we all know the number of vans that go around the town, and that last mile delivery is part, I think, we believe, of the future of the delivery. As we have more and more packages delivered to our households, that last mile can be done by cycle. So that is something that we are working with the Big Town Plan to be the pathfinders, and our data will then be fed into the company that wins that contract. We also have a rickshaw service in Shrewsbury, which works with a charity called Cycling for All. So Cycling for All Shropshire provides cycling opportunities for people who can't access cycling, whether it be disabilities, age, infirmities or injuries. And so we work with care homes and others to provide cycling opportunities to give people cycling around the town of Shrewsbury. And that's something that Chrissy, who used to run the cycling hub in Oswestry, was building rather well in Oswestry, and that is something that we want to resurrect in Oswestry, which we have project for the spring of this year. So to get our rickshaw back out and to incorporate the Cycling for All Shropshire and to include that as Oswestry as one of their hubs. And then in Oswestry, which is where we have our workshop, and that is, as you all know, it's in is it called the Cross Market building? Yeah. So the Cross Market building, which has been a fabulous location for us. It's been the profile it's given the cycle hub, the number of people who've just happened to see it, walked in through the front door, the network that we've created. I mean, we've met some really extraordinary people. On Radio 4, about 3 months ago, there was a guy called Stefan, and he was a very successful marketeer, had a very successful business, and he felt that his life was not going where he thought it sort of as enriching as he hoped, or thought it could be, and he started volunteering in prisons. And the end result, he has set up a charity, a very successful charity in London, which trains people in prison to become bicycle mechanics. And so we made a contact with them, and it's something that we are looking to maybe develop here in the Northwest, be a partner for them. So we see, out of the facility that the town council has partnered with us, we've developed a mechanic workshop. We have 2 SciTech engineers working out of there, which your grant last year facilitated, and we're hugely grateful for that. We have an operations director in Finn who makes sure the place is running and coordinates and gets the word out and makes sure the business is running. We take the hub's basic model is the workshop side of the model is we take bikes that are donated. We are getting about 20 to 40 bikes a month donated. We take those bikes and we refurbish them, we make them roadworthy, we give them something called an M-check, which is then looked over by our SciTech engineers or done by our SciTech engineers, and then we sell them at a reasonable price. We've sold, in the last 6 months out of the Oswestry shop, we've sold over 150 bicycles at less than £80, average of less than £80 per bicycle. So people are getting a really good quality bicycle at a very decent price. And it's very interesting who buys our bikes. They're everyone from people who need to get them to work, to young people who want to have a bike, to families. It's a young lady came in who had a go at the Ballard Triathlon, and she's looking for a bike to improve improve her time. So there's a broad range of people who are using that facility and ages. Actually, I'm really impressed when I go into the hub at the different range of people who are in there. There's young people, there's pensioners, and that's how we want to be as inclusive as possible. So that's the workshop side of things. The workshop has now developed as one of the mechanic that your grant enabled us to employ last year is one of the leading SciTech trainers in the country. He helped actually develop the SciTech training manual, and through Jim we have developed a training program, and the first group of people have gone through that, and so through the spring and onwards we see training as being a core plank of our operations. And that training we would like to see. There's many opportunities. We have lots of, which is schools, to develop a cycle culture. People just a home mechanics course. So if you understand your bicycle better and you can maintain it, you're going to use it more. And then other outlets, possibly even, as I say, possibly partnering with this charity and working with prisons and like that type of operation. So the training is a really important strand of our work, and now the next strand is social riding. So Oswestry, I've been back in Oswestry I think 15 years. I was a kind of, I guess, I think they're called mammals. I'd put on my lycra and head out into the hills, and there was a few of us, but now there's lots of us in Oswestry. There's lots of cyclists, there's lots of mammals out there with their lycra. But what we want to promote is families, people who maybe haven't ridden a bike for a number of years, and to be able to have the safety of riding in a group and going out on a gentle ride, getting to know lanes around Oswestry, and building that confidence to ride alone and together with friends. So we've had 3 exploratory rides so far. We've got another one this Friday, and then come March we will then start promoting them. So that's another strand of how we see enriching and creating a culture for the Cycle Hub. And I guess the last, well not the last, but the other part of our work is to be advocates for cycling, and to advocate with Shropshire Council, to advocate with the highways and yourselves to improve facilities for cycling. So it's very nice to hear your squeezing of the council to try and get a pump track. We would fully support that, because obviously the more cycling that happens particularly if it can be organised cycling that can happen at a young age, that builds a good cycling culture. And also interesting what Councillor Moore was talking about, and the use of the hill fort. Misuse of the hill fort as a destination for cycling, and obviously if we can build a good strong culture of cycling in the town, we'd hope that would also self-police itself and go, hey, that's not the place to cycle. That's a listed monument of great importance, not only to Oswestry but to the nation. So as I say, advocacy is a really other sort of important strand, and by that we want to promote cycling and the benefits not just of cycling but active travel. So that's where we are. So any questions, any insights, any feedback?
Councillors. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, are you now taking cycles in, it's like second-hand ones? Can people bring them in and donate them?
Yeah, so as I said, we have I think it's about 40 cycles a month get donated. So those bicycles are donated. The majority of them get resurrected into bicycles that are fit and roadworthy to be then used by someone else. And those bicycles then get sold, and they help then keep financing the charity. And they sold at a very fair, reasonable price. And then some bicycles have been donated, and then some bikes get, what's the right word? They get repurposed. So we use parts, and so we have a really good store of all parts.
Yeah, I only asked a question because 12 months ago, an acre grew up, and we got 2 children's bikes.
Councillor Davis, just pop your mic on for me. Sorry.
They had 2 children's bikes, probably aged 8 to 10, something like that. They were in very good nick, and I wanted them to maybe go to a family that couldn't afford, you know, a bike, but finding somebody is very difficult. So I actually popped in your shop and asked, did you want them? And I was basically told, no, you'd got enough. So I got rid of them on Facebook after.
Well, I wasn't me who said that. So I'm sorry if that was your experience. I think there was a range of bikes. I mean, on the whole, bicycles for children we always welcome because there aren't that many of them, and we have an ambition. We have an ambition to set up what's called a cycle library for children. If you think a child from the age of 4, when they maybe learn to ride these days, they learn much earlier than probably when you learnt or when I learnt to ride, because the wheels were bigger. But the number of bicycles they go through from the age of 4 to 15 will maybe be 3-4 bicycles in terms of size. So an ambition of ours is to have a cycle library where you would take one bike and then you donate it back when it's finished, and you kind of go through the steps alone. But I take your experience, and I'll note that. Thank you.
Councillor Coburn.
Thank you very much. Really informative. I think, and good to see the contribution that the Town Council has made to the progress so far. I was wondering what you would think that the next thing that the Council could do to help you take a next step.
That's a very good question. Of course, we all, obviously a charity like ours needs sustained support, because we're trying to be as self-sustaining as possible through the income we generate, but to do the number of programs we want to do, we do need, and we are looking for grants at all times. You know, we would like to think that, you know, that if there was the opportunity for us to apply for another grant in the future, so financial support is good. We'd like your support generally, just in terms of your support of the initiative that we're promoting, and I think for the time being you've been worthy supporters of the Shropshire Cycle Hub. So, you know, I don't think I would say always we're looking for financial support, like any charity, but you know, we're very grateful for the support that you've given today.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
Just want to echo what Councillor Coburn just said. Just a question really. This obviously the current premises you had, there was a number of days where you'd be open and a number of days that you weren't. I'm not sure what numbers it was, but when you establish yourself in the new premises, would you be looking to open more often? Because I do worry that you might be missing out on some of the opportunities from people that probably can't come into town on certain days. So the more days you're open, the more opportunities there are for people to come in. Because I did see quite a few comments on social media over the last year or so asking, you know, when you're open. You don't seem to be open when we need to. Obviously, the more you're open, the better the opportunities for you.
No, very understood. And the grant that the council awarded us was very clear in what our objectives were, and we very quickly employed a mechanic, as we said we would, and then we employed operations manager as well. We are now consistently open 3 days a week, sometimes 4, and the expansion of our services, which is where we see our future, then that would also expand the envelope that we would be open for. You know, if we increase the training that we want to do and increase the social rides, then that will expand you know, the days that we're open. But we're now consistently open Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays. Thank you.
In line with our market days. That's great. Thank you, Saffron. That's been really informative. I'm sure councillors have got a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you. Feel free to stay or to go, whichever you prefer.
Which one are you doing?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so councillors, we move on to number 5, which is the Kyglass Park and Cemetery Management Group. I think Aaron's got some updates as part of the timetable.
Yes. So just these minutes, just a note. I think just having reflected on the minutes themselves. I think we need to make sure that we set out a clear process for you on the Crazy Golf project that you want to take forward. I think yeah, we need to lay out a process that includes consultation with the public. So I think we'll look to bring that forward. But aside for that, yeah, that's the only comments I need to make.
Okay, so we're being asked to note and resolve any actions from the cemetery and Carriglass Management Group. Happy to note and Councillor Jones.
I must admit I haven't been in the park, but did I hear quite a few a big tree or two have come down? And what's the plan with that? Are we going to leave it there to rot and bug store, or what do we do? We need to keep thinking about these things.
I suppose that it might be better if the group members of the group explain their plans for the trade. They have discussed it.
Councillor Coburn.
Yes, I mean, it's in the attached minutes, but I think the plan was to create a seat there from where it's come down, and then to remove the remaining stump because it could be potentially dangerous.
Okay. Councillor Maguire and Councillor Kerr.
Just to say, obviously I was in the meeting myself, and it was a very productive meeting. We had quite a few discussions with regards to the Crazy Golf. It was quite interesting, and some very good suggestions put forward towards the tree stump and for the trunk itself. Councillor Moore, cracking ideas with the squirrels on it. I think it'd be great for the town to see something left rather than, let it go to rack and ruin. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, it was a good meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I fully concur with the actions. I was just wondering on the tree where you could put a notice up, because I've heard lots of people saying, well, why have they left it there? And there's nothing to explain while it's there. The barrier's still around it. It looks as though we don't care. So if we can just put a sign up there explaining what's happening, then people would know.
I'm sure the town clerk will action that one.
Yeah, Henry, have you got anything to add, Henry, to that? Yeah, so just, you might as well get the answer when you...
Yeah, I've been, following on from the meeting, I have been talking with our communications marketing officer. She's currently preparing a social media post and to sort of outline what it is that the council are willing to do or wanting to do with that tree stump. But yeah, we will... That, but yeah.
Yep. Councillor Upton.
I was just going to say, I'm sure that was a resolution to have some kind of inscription there, wasn't it?
Yep. Councillor Rose, and then we will move on.
I'm just looking at the speed of doing this. I know we do the social media, and are we actually going to approach, chainsaw sculptures? I mean, it's that type of level of person you're looking for, isn't it? Somewhere where you might be able to contact them. And also, I was speaking to someone who deals with wood, and they said that beech trees, once they're felled, rot quite quickly. They're one of the worst, apparently. I don't know if that's true, but so we need to get on with what we're doing, I think.
Yeah, but you'll need a process. So you need a process similar to the mural process because you're giving work to people, aren't you? So we need to set out a process for you, which we will do in due course.
Okay. Councillors, we are being asked to note and resolve any actions and note the minutes. All those in favour, councillors? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We'll move on to Future Oswestry Group, and we're just being asked to note the attached draft notes from the Future Oswestry Group. If anybody's got any comments or queries from those minutes. All those in favour, councillors? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Have we got any questions that have been raised in accordance with standing orders?
None raised, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving swiftly on to number 8 then, and do we have any updates from either Councillor Kerr or Councillor Price from a Shropshire Council point of view?
I think you probably all know today's news, which was announced unexpectedly at Cabinet this morning, which is that the ruling group has done has changed course on the booking system for the tips. So as from next week, as I understand it, there'll be no need for cars to make a booking. 17th, is it? Okay. From the 17th, then there'll be no need for cars to make a booking, but there'll still be restrictions on vans, and car owners may be asked to approve that they live within the district. That seems to me eminently sensible and something we'll all get behind. I think one of the issues here is that there's a lack of strategy. I was asked some long time ago for a waste minimisation strategy where you can spend some time thinking about all these issues, looking around the country, and that's still in the course of consultation years later. So in the absence of strategy, I just fear some decisions are being made a bit too quickly, on good intentions, but it doesn't help the council's reputation or save money when you have to turn and change course so quickly. Apart from that, obviously the council's financial situation hasn't got any better. That we have now learnt that they have settlement from the government, which isn't very great. It's probably a little bit more than we had last year, but the problem Shropshire Council has got, to be perfectly honest, is the growth in need, particularly on adult services and children's services, and most people don't understand that counts for about 85% of everything it spends, and so you don't need much increase in need there. So there are some very exacting savings targets this year, many of which haven't been achieved, I'm afraid, and there'll be more exacting savings targets next year, whoever ends up running the council after May.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Price. Okay, thank you very much. Well then, unless anybody's got any further comments in relation to Councillor Upton.
This is a question more in response.
I think it's.
Oh.
I think it's we're making comments rather than questions at this point.
Oh.
Yeah, unless it's a question of the update that
It is a question of the update. So it's become apparent that there are conflicting views that, as a result of the decision to restore the semblance of balance to the old system, that it's believed that Shropshire Council are persisting as a result with the amendment of bins being emptied every 4 weeks, whereas some say that's been cancelled as well as the announcement made by Councillor Kerr. Can we seek some clarity as to whether that's what the decision is?
The council's never talked about collecting bins every 4 weeks. It did consult on collecting residual waste or indeed recyclers every 3 weeks. That hasn't made a decision as yet. Obviously, the council's in the process of setting its budget. That will be set at the end of February, and the cabinet will be determining and recommending, and then the council will determine from there.
Okay, thank you for the update, councillors. We therefore move on to number 9, which is a notice of motion. Never say that one. In the name of Ollie Rose. Councillor Coburn. So we are going to deal with these two things separately. So if we deal with the first one first, and then we'll go on to the second one second, surprisingly enough. Councillor Rose.
Okay, I'll try and keep it brief.
Thank you.
I mean, things have moved on since this went in. I put the motion in a week ago just to make sure we were able, we didn't have to wait another month to make some kind of response. So we're talking about the breast feeding network. So Rachel Robinson, the Director of Public Health, explained to Shropshire Council that Telford and Wrekin receive direct government funding for this type of provision from the Start for Life fund, and that Shropshire Council don't. This is another one of those funds that you reach a certain deprivation level and you get money. So that's why with the breastfeeding network, Telford have continued to use them, and Shropshire haven't. That was a reason, as if it's to do with funding. Shropshire, however, have still been committed to funding the kind of help, but they're doing it in a different way. So it seems a pity that we don't get the support from national government, because Shropshire's rates are 10% below. Well, in fact, when I looked at it, it was more than that. It's nearly 20% below the national average at 6 to 8 weeks. So it's not doing very well. It has been improving over the last few years, but the UK as a whole is one of the worst countries in the world for breastfeeding, which seems quite bizarre. The NHS well documents how important it is for both mothers and babies in terms of health. more children who aren't breastfed go into hospital with respiratory and gastrointestinal things, just to mention a couple of things. So in the long term, the NHS, if it supports breastfeeding less, will end up with higher costs. So it all seems to be all the wrong way around. Anyway, I've got every confidence now that Cube, we've all heard from the director of Cube, that they will get a suitable service up and running very soon. But I still want us to write to Shropshire Council to express our dismay at how this has been done, because it's been all a very short notice with lots of people getting upset, volunteers worried, and it has a knock-on effect for the charity. So it's a very, very low-cost service, so they're not going to be saving much money, if any. It's sort of very low in the first place. So they've already TUPE'd over to the Cube, the only paid worker, and they're in consultation with all the volunteers who may well move over, and they're hoping that they will set the scheme up in a few weeks. And Cube does everything brilliantly, so I'm sure that this will actually happen. But I think the way Shropshire has done it, they're not looking at it holistically. So they're just thinking, oh, it'd be much easier for us to, instead of directly dealing with this contract, to move it over into Cube, because Cube are doing a lot of community development stuff for us, and we'll put it over there. But in the meantime, a national charity who doesn't just provide face-to-face breastfeeding help, they also provide training for, as well as their volunteers, they train professionals as well, and they do a lot of research, and every little tiny piece that's taken away from them by councils obviously has a knock-on effect for the charity as a whole. So I really would just like to write to them and ask in future that they do look more carefully into the sort of surrounding effects of just, because as I said, it's a very, very low fee anyway, and they'll probably not even save any money at all.
I think one of the additional things we can do is certainly to write to the Director of Public Health in terms of the process and the communication for the individuals concerned. And I think offering our wholehearted support for Cube, the service that they're going to offer, and our positivity towards that will be really beneficial. So I think what you're asking certainly in terms of a letter to Shropshire Council to express our concerns with the process. Similarly to the Director of Public Health, and a letter of support publicly for Cube and the service that they're going to offer.
But also if we can write to the Breastfeeding Network as well, to see if there's anything we locally could do to help promote their activities to support the charity.
Okay. So, councillors, that's what we're...
Sorry, can I just suggest a letter to the government as well, because the 75 authorities do receive this funding. We're one of the ones that don't, and there's always rural areas, people who are deprived, living in rural areas, miss out because there's not enough of them. That doesn't seem like an equitable basis for determining such a policy on such a key issue. So that could be included.
Yep. Okay. That's multiple letters you're asking.
Obviously, members need to have a discussion on it and decide, but what I would ask, just to help, if you could pencil a letter outlining some of those, which I think you've got. Suddenly, Councillor Kerr, if you could, give me a few lines, and that saves us a little bit of task, and make sure that we're getting the right facts as well. So, yeah, that would be really helpful.
I'm sure councillors will oblige in terms of their knowledge. So, councillors, that's the motion on the table. Has anybody got any further discussions they want to make? Brilliant. Thank you very, very much. Unless there's anything else to discuss, all those in favour of the motion? All those against the motion? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. So we then move on to the second part, of which I think Councillor Coburn will leave the room for. We need a tunnel underneath, maybe. Okay, Councillor, so we move on to the second part of the motion. Councillor Rose.
You've read the motion, and I think everyone will have received information both from Mr. Sandbank over here, we all received, and from various loads of other people. Sandbatch, sorry, loads of other people. And there's all sorts of what I'd like to do is write to Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin NHS and express our concern about this and ask them to pause the final stage of their decision to award the Advars contract to Medvivo and reconsider the benefits of using the much lauded, locally based service ShopDoc. It's only last year in their own documentation they were sort of saying how amazing ShopDoc was. So that, you know, there's no sort of criticism in that way. I know that David referred to their consultation, and although it's not formally out there, there's lots of comments that they have printed, which are all very favourable to the way it's run, that people in particular appreciate the fact that they know there's a local doctor available, that they know the distances between places and where they're sending people, and, you know, they're not sort of operating from Wiltshire and trying to sort of work out how you can get from Craven Arms to someone else. And also, as it's been stated, this is a massive American-owned company that is, I think David referred to it, it's a sort of David and Goliath type situation with a competitive process, which is not how it's supposed to have been. There's quite a lot of FOIs going into them, which I've already heard with all sorts. I'm not going to go into detail of that, but there are all sorts of things around the way the tender process and around the company. So I'm sure we'll hear those in good time. The other tenderers who didn't get the contract have got until Friday to challenge, and I do believe that ShopDoc are going to challenge. So really our letter is just to express disquiet and also to be supportive of them when they do challenge. It's just another thing that goes in with their challenge, really.
We will discuss, but if we can just have a seconder in the room. Okay, Councillor Maguire, thank you. Councillor Maguire, then Councillor Kerr.
I'd just like to say, you know, after listening to the concerns from the gentleman in the public gallery, you know, just today alone, I sat there looking at some of the comments on social media about trying to get doctor's appointments in our local doctor surgeries, and it's difficult to get. You know, you got people waiting on the phone for 45 minutes to get a response, and with the concerns that this gentleman has just brought to us today in regards to the quality of service from the company on the table, if you like, it worries me even more to think that our residents could suffer even more through not being able to get appointments from not just a doctor, but not be able to get a visit from a specialist, whether it be, you know, whatever company decides to take place. It's very worrying and very concerning, you know. So I fully support what you put forward and write that letter.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
I was just going to add that in writing to Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin Integrated Care Board, I should ask them what assessment they've done of the risk of failure. You may or may not remember, but ShopDoc had its contract terminated back in 2013. It was exactly the same situation as you had in Dudley. The new provider went belly up within the first few months. And imagine the costs, let alone the inconvenience, the difficulties, the health risks for patients, just the costs alone of that happening again. And so I think in the letter we ought to draw attention to what due diligence have they done in that eventuality.
Yeah, I think in the letter we can certainly also query the process and our concerns about the process and that's been used thus far. Okay, thank you. So, councillors, we are suggesting, or Councillor Davis, sorry.
Yeah, just very quickly. It seems as though the service is working well, as they've put in the documentation. So my question is, why change something that's working? Secondly, we all know that, well, I don't know of late, but ShopDoc used to be local doctors from the local surgery in the local area on a rota. So they knew the area, they knew where they were going, they knew the time for getting there. And on the back of that, you do get two things really. There are a lot of people that would probably ring the doctor at night and expect somebody to come out. But if they're travelling a long way and can't find them, these people could be critical, especially older people. They will blag that they're not as poorly as they are and they do need an ambulance and an hospital. And then you'll get the other side of the people that just won't bother because they're fed up with it and they'll go and block A&E up. So, you know,
there's certainly the concern of patients
to
not
change
being
it
at
is
the
a
heart.
loss for everybody, isn't it? That's the point.
Indeed, indeed. So I think the ask is simple, councillors, that we write to Shropshire and Telford and Wrekin NHS, expressing our concerns about the process and the outcome and the suitability and any review subject to any potential failure. I think, again, the clerk would appreciate any support in terms of words that you may have already when contacting these people. Councillors, if you've got any further comments or questions, we will go around the room and vote. No? Okay, thank you very much. So all those in favour of Councillor Rose's motion? All those against? Any abstentions? One abstention in the corner. Thank you very much. Okie dokie, we move...
I'm going to go get Josh. And just to let you know, I do tend to send emails rather than letters out. I hope that's okay.
We can get with emails. Okay. Give people a few more minutes and then we will move on to number 10, which is the Archives Quarterly Report. And I believe the Town Clerk has some positive news.
So yeah, just to advise that we had, I don't know if you realise, we've got the smallest accredited archives in the country. So that means that the standards that we have here, and the level of professional in which we deliver our services is up there. And we've gone through our inspection of the last couple of weeks. The outcome will be reported on the 5th of March. And the feeling of the inspection was extremely positive. So this is an inspector from the National Archives in London come to visit us. But what was really pleasing to note is how they were encouraged by how we use our archives to inform local art projects and local history projects, and how they're not just kept away, locked away down in the basement as we do with our archivist. They're actually used, and I don't know if you've seen some of the work of the artists and how those projects move forward. So we've done some really good work in this area, and we do tend to forget about it. But when we get this if we're lucky enough to pass the inspection, which I think I'm hopeful that we will, I think it'll be a good news story and hopefully one of a few that we might have coming up.
Okay, Councillor Upton, then Councillor Maguire.
I move that we note and extend a huge gratitude of thanks to Aaron and the team for working so hard to bring us this update and for all they've done to bring it to where it is today, and our best wishes for it.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
To be fair, Councillor Upton has just said what I was going to say. I would just like to, on behalf of the council, thank all the team for the hard work that they do.
That's excellent.
Let's wait till we get the results, eh?
But nevertheless, lots of work. Yeah, very appreciated. Brilliant. We move on to number 11, the NALC Super Councils Network. So councillors will be aware that we, as a council, are already a member of NALC and SALC, and Aaron is a personal member of the SLCC in terms of any professional help and support. Do councillors have any thoughts about being a member of the Super Councils Network, and does the Town Clerk want to say something?
Yeah, so I get these every year because we are a member of this. It's whether you want to join the LGA or not. It does give you a little bit more access, but members personally can sign up to NALC. I hope you've done so. There's lots of, it's free, and there's lots of good information on there for you. This seems like a subscription, one too many to me, but this needs to be your decision in terms of whether you want to go down the route.
Councillor Jones.
I like the fact that we are going to be a super council and we want to be special council. We're a good council. We were council of the year not long ago, and I think we want to get back there, and I think this would be a stepping stone for that. I think we spent a lot of money in the past, but I don't think this is the biggest money to spend, so I'd support it.
Councillor Upton.
Can we be members of both?
So just for clarity, we are part of the Super Council network. That's just because on the size of the council. This is to be, because you can join the LGA and have access to support. But the benefits of doing so, the benefits for you as members and being engaged in that process. So it's you know, it's you that are going to benefit because it is there for the authorities and not necessarily for officers. So I'm happy either way.
Okay, Councillor Kerr.
Happy to support Councillor Jones. I think £580 plus VAT is what we're talking about. I think you can't really put a price on knowledge, can you? And if we have an issue, we can get extra resources and extra advice on that. We could cost a lot more not to have that knowledge and to stumble blindly into something. So I think at that price, it would be prudent to actually be it. And if we find after the first year that we've not actually used it, then we can step back out of it again, can't we?
Okay, Councillor Owen.
Just to ask, if it was offered every year, have we not done it in the past? It's just...
I haven't brought it forward to members, but I think it is actually a member. I do believe it's probably a member decision, isn't it? Because it's a policy issue. So we get lots of requests for subscriptions, as you can probably gather. But I think it's the right thing to bring it to you for, and I get a view for how you want to take it forward, and that's fine.
Do we need a proposal of second?
Well, yeah, if Councillor Jones, I think you have to. So Councillor Jones.
Councillor, are you happy to propose? Are you happy to second? Okay. Councillors, will take it to the vote unless anybody else has got anything further. Okay, so all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Do you want to do that again?
No, because there was more for than against, wasn't it? So that
Okay.
abstentions don't really count in sorry.
That's fine. Motion carried. Fabulous. Okay, we move on to number 12, the election of the Mayor-elect and the Deputy Mayor-elect. So we are here to formally nominate the Mayor-elect and the Deputy Mayor-elect for 25-26 in accordance with the Standing Order 26 of the Council. And I can read out the Standing Order, but I won't. It's in front of you. Thanks for that. So the first course is the Mayor-elect. Are there any nominations for the Mayor-elect for the year 25-26? Councillor Owen.
I would like to nominate yourself as the next, current Deputy Mayor, and are you on the seniority list as the next member?
You do need a second.
Thank you. Okay, do we do one after the other?
Let's do a vote on that one. So
Okay. Councillor Jones.
By the looks of your lovely top, I thought you were Mayoress already. It's very sparkly, well done. And yeah, good luck, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, much appreciated. Okay, this seems very strange and weird, but all those in favour of that? Yes, thank you. Thank you, councillors. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Okay, we then move on to the election of the Deputy Mayor-elect and any nominations for the Deputy Mayor-elect. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Les Maguire. He's been an excellent councillor since he started. His work on Facebook and social media is second to none. He seems to manage it very well, and he does actually provide very good information for our locals. So I think he would be an excellent councillor. I think he's well respected at his work, and I think they'll let him have the time off to do the role in full. I think the mayor role is getting harder to do with people working and things like that, and I hope it doesn't diminish the role. But in the past, we've had lots of retired people, and that was easy to do. But hopefully, we can keep the mayoral. I really enjoyed the time I did, and it really made you feel quite good being mayor, and the difference you can make to the public. It's amazing what a little bit of chain work gets you photo with everybody, and it does a lot of good for everybody. So, so I recommend that he will make an excellent mayor. The only thing I would say that I think we should make it some sort of a priority that any mayor should have proper training before they start as well. I think that should be, not that I'm saying he's not a good mayor, but I think it's good to get a bit more experience off other people who've done it before, or off. There are training courses which I went on, which I thought was an excellent course. So, okay, thank you.
Agree with that one. Thank you. Are you seconding, Councillor Davis?
Yeah, I'd like to second him. As Councillor Jones has said, does a sterling job on the social media on the town. and does a lot of stuff that people could do themselves with mending potholes and cutting edges, but takes it on board, gets results and posts the results back. So I think he'd be very good as a mayor, and to get around and meet a few more people and different organisations.
Okay, thank you. Kind words, councillors. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. Councillors, all those in favour? Carried. Congratulations. Brilliant. Move on, thankfully. So we have been given the schedule of meetings for the year 25-26. It is subject to change, obviously, with a new council, a new way of working has that potential always. But for now, get those in your diaries. It's really useful to be able to have those in advance when we're trying to manage lives and so on and so forth. So thank you, Aaron, for putting those together. Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. She's not here. It's really useful, and it's really useful to have that framework, isn't it? So, so we can plan ahead. And also worth noting, as you're remembering some of those meetings that come up ad hoc throughout the year, think about that when you come to the next time that we actually nominate people to go on those meetings and represent. So,
I've just got a question more than anything else. With the are there any the youth meeting? I know this is the right place to talk because I think it might be mentioned later. But it's normally slightly earlier at 6, and I know that we've been having trouble reaching quorum for it, and I don't know if there's any leeway or wiggle room, as it were, in changing the time of certain meetings, or are they at a certain time for that for a certain reason?
So I think with working groups, they're very much up to the members to decide how you want to run them. So I think the recommendation would be have the first one, and then you can decide when you want to meet, depending on who makes up that group. We are flexible, and we're keen to support you. Recognise the different pressures, but it's up to you, to decide when you want to meet.
Should we have that discussion when we come to actually working out? Yeah, that's fine. Excellent. Okay, so we're just being asked to consider and approve the draft schedule of meetings for 2025-26. So, councillors, unless you've got anything else to add, all those in favour? I think that's all of us. Yeah, thank you very much. We move on to number 14, which is further consultation on the strengthening the standards and conduct framework for local authorities in England. Over to you, Aaron.
Yeah, I owe Councillor Upton an apology for last meeting because he asked a question about the monitoring officer, which I forgot I knew the answer to. So apologies, and it's back on the agenda because of that. I think this is an open consultation, so it's an opportunity for members, and I would encourage you all to take part because it is about you to contribute. But you asked the question about the monitoring officer, and I should have known that the monitoring officer set out in the Localism Act. There's no suggestion that they were going to change that, and any concept of complaints going directly to a standards committee wouldn't stack up. So, but I did write to the committee of carrying out the work, and they did respond. So I think we got confirmation that I was actually right in the first place.
So, is there anything, as a council, are we asking councillors to comment, as a council to comment?
That's entirely up to you. Depends how strongly you feel about the matter. Both NALC and the SLCC are encouraging people to take part because, it's a genuine consultation, it's an open consultation, and if you have a view at the council, whether you think standards committees are a good thing or not, then that's for you to express. Or you may say it's better for you to do it individually to avoid having a discussion and having a difference of opinion around the table. Entirely up to you.
Councillors, I think we're all individuals and we're all experienced councillors in the room. I think take some responsibility for putting our own viewpoints across. Unless anybody's got any alternative suggestions, I would encourage you all to log in and feedback like we are regularly asked for. Is that okay? Okay. Do we need to vote on that?
Well, just note, if you want to say no, that we're going to, that you're going to do it yourselves as opposed to a corporate response, that'd be good.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So we then move on to number 15, and this is kind of my bread and butter. This is the things I do day in, day out. So I've got some thoughts that I wanted to add if you'll allow me, councillors. The Dignity at Work policy is a great policy, and Aaron's obviously done a lot of work on bulking it out and making it appropriate for Oswestry Town Council. There was two aspects of it that I just wanted to add some detail around, if you'll agree. One of them is about making it abundantly clear that when it comes to harassment, it is purely if somebody is feeling harassed, as to whether it's a legal concept or not. It is not about the intention of the person, whether that was deliberate or not. It is about how that person feels. And that's a very specific aspect around harassment, and important for our staff within the council to feel that it's how they feel, not the intention of somebody else. The second bit I wanted to make really clear is around the concept of workplace. So my own experience is that, and very similar to organisations post-COVID, is that organisations work very differently, very dynamically. Some of them have WhatsApp groups, some of them meet in public places, some of them work from home, some of them, some people kind of communicate in different ways, and actually it's making it very clear that all of those things, even a works drinks night out or a works meal out, is still classed as workplace. So if anybody feels harassed, victimised or anything within those environments, actually it's just as serious and it's still a legal concept. So I think I would ask that the policy just adds that little bit of extra detail, and I'm more than happy to support the clerk in adding anything. And I think just to make it really clear about the importance of this policy, October last year brought in the requirement for organisations to actively look to prevent any harassment, and that's why this has come back and is really important. And also, 6 days ago, the West Midlands Police Force published figures that suggested sexual harassment has quadrupled in the last 10 years in this area. So there is an importance. This is dignity at work, but it is around harassment as well. So, councillors, apologies for my discussion, but I'm more than happy to take any further comments. Councillor Kerr.
It's an excellent policy. The one thing that struck me, and I don't know whether it's in, I think it should be included in the policy, is what about harassment from members of the public to staff? Should there be some mechanism whereby that is reported, maybe anonymised, but reported to councillors? Because I think you might become aware of it, Clark, but you probably haven't got a way of putting it onto our agenda. But I think, I don't know whether it be the audit committee or some committee of the council, or a couple of councillors, ought to be looking at those sorts of issues. And you've seen plenty of workplaces, they say, where abuse of our staff will not be tolerated, but we need to be aware of what abuse may be going on and thinking about what we might need to do in response as councillors, rather than just leaving it all to the clerk to do. So I don't know whether the clerk wants to comment on that, but I'd go ahead with this policy and then perhaps add that to it. If I don't want to delay the whole thing, but I do want to cover that element of harassment as well.
Yeah, I'm part of a Clerks Forum, a National Clerks Forum, and this happens on a regular basis. So yeah, I'd be pleased to look at including a line about that. What I would also ask is, the policy that we've come up with is a better policy than the model civility and respect policy. So I would actually like to put it forward as best practice, if that'd be okay with you. In terms of the comments that the chair have made, it's certainly the intention to that harassment and bullying is how you feel about it. I think there's a line in there, but I think we discussed it earlier. It needs to be strengthened. And it raised an interesting question. When the chair raised the question about workplace, it did make me think more holistically about situations, and I'm happy to include that in there. They clearly need to be carefully managed, because there has to be a little bit of an off time, and the nature of relationships are all different. But certainly recognising that it could be perceived as harassment outside of work in a working relationship, I think is a good one. And if I'll work with the chair to include that in there if members are happy.
Councillor Maguire, then Councillor Chadwick.
Just coming back to Councillor Kerr's proposal, then I think the clerk might be interested to speak to the Oswestry Rural Parish Council, because I'm pretty sure that they have a framework available. If I remember rightly, from when I was on the parish council, there was something set up for that purpose. So yeah, a discussion with the parish council might be of a benefit to the clerk.
So, yeah, thank you, Councillor Maguire. I think there, we have got vexatious complainer policy, and I think that's the, and we did speak to the clerk at Austria Rural about that. I think it's slightly different. I think this is more, I think this is more targeted and directed at individuals, which, you know, which is an issue. So, yeah, but thank you, and I certainly share our policy with fellow clerks as well.
Councillor Chadwick.
I'd just like to say thank you, actually, to the work that's gone into this policy. It's quite comprehensive. I'm pleased to see a lot has been done to address the kind of intricacies regarding bullying and harassment. I think where, from lived experience and on my time on this council, where it's fallen short is where we get to the monitoring officer, and I guess that's outside of this council, because whenever we make a complaint and it goes to the monitoring officer, it seems to kind of stop and nothing else is done. But I was pleased to see that there was a section in this that goes to a little bit further than that, where the council then will support councillors if they are making complaints, to kind of back them up in regard to the monitoring officer. Because I think historically, not just with my lived experience here, but historically the service from the monitoring officer has not been great when it comes to raising complaints. So I'm really pleased to see that there is some support available from the council for councillors, and I hope that kind of serves a bit of a reminder to councillors serving and those coming in, that actually it won't be tolerated and you will be called out on behaviours. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chadwick.
Can I just very, very quickly, I think it's important as part of this, we talked about the standards framework and the consultation on that. I think that feedback needs to go into there as well, and I did just encourage you to provide those comments, because I think the role of the monitoring officer is a key one as part of that whole thing, and I think they need to hear the feedback.
So, councillors, there's a series. Sorry, Councillor Coburn.
So, yeah, just looking at the page 7 and 8 for the way who you should report to, and it seems obviously it varies depending on who the bullying harassment is coming from, and I understand that there may be reasons for that, but I do feel that perhaps there could be a more uniform person rather than someone who's feeling vulnerable because they're being bullied or harassed, having to consult the policy to see who the person they should report it to is. I mean, most of them, it seems to be the clerk, which would seem to be an obvious one. But for instance, if for the informal resolution, if the approach does not work, or if you do not want to try and resolve the situation in the way, you should raise the issue with the mayor of the council. And I'm not sure the mayor is the appropriate person to come to. I mean, in this next year they may be, but in general, the mayor may not be the most appropriate person to raise this with first.
I think we still need to be in a situation where people can go to the person that they feel most comfortable going to.
It is a tricky one because as the mayor's the chair of the council, that's the official role, and the head, the head of the council. And, I think, and there plays a leadership role within there. I think it's the right. If a fellow colleague is sort of concerned about how officers are dealing with a grievance about bullying and harassment, then they need to be able to go to an elected member as part of that process. I'm not sure in the first instance, but however, if it was, for example, me, then let's use a hypothetical scenario. Me and Henry would need to speak to somebody, and probably only an elected member would be suitable. So the chair of the council would be probably the best placed, together with the chair of the HR committee. But the chair of the council is the only one with any additional powers to an ordinary member, aren't they? Really. So I think perhaps I'll have another look at the wording, but certainly I think that the chair of the council, or the mayor in our case, needs to have a key role in that.
Councillor Chadwick, and then I think we will look at it?
I was just going to make a comment as to whether there was a role for the HR panel in that respect. That once that person had sought kind of advice or support from their particular person, whether that then initial discussion goes to the HR panel.
Yeah. I think, councillors, there's a couple of amendments that we've come up with tonight. It strikes me that we should give the clerk the, what's the phrase?
Just delegated powers.
Thank you. Are councillors comfortable with those delegated powers in this respect? Yeah?
Can I do so in consultation with the Deputy Mayor?
Thank you very much, councillors. So, in which case we need to, are we voting on you having delegated rights, or are we voting on the policy?
So I think you're supporting, so I think here tonight you're supporting the need for policy, and pleased that one's in place. I think you're adopting the policy with some additional changes, and you're giving me the delegated powers in consultation with the Deputy Mayor to finalise the detail around those changes.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with what we're voting on? Yes. Fabulous. Okay. Councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. We move on to number 16, which is the planning application relating to the living wall at Morrison's. Aaron, do you want to just give a very quick?
Yes. I think the short version of the situation is you were asked to withdraw your objection. You considered it council last month. You said no. We think it's important that this is that our objection remains, and subsequently that was communicated to Shropshire Council planning officers, and at the agenda setting meeting, I think they determined that they were going to determine the matter through delegated powers, and consent has been given. So I think the matter's now closed.
Okay. So we're just asked to note that outcome. Okay, councillors. We don't need to vote on anything.
I think you can note the update. I think that would be useful to note the update.
All those in favour of noting the update? Thank you. Okay, we move on to a report from the Town Clerk on Oswestry Town Council projects.
So quite a lot in there. It also includes an update from Shropshire Council following the list we gave them a few months ago on issues. So there's quite a lot in there. I'll let you have a look at that and make a decision how you want to take those issues forward. Just an update on a few of our projects. So the centre, you'll be pleased to know that we're hopeful that the lease will be signed before the end of February. There's one minor issue to resolve, and I'm hopeful that we can get through that fairly quickly. We are working quite carefully on minimising the work needed on the roof. We've had the level of insulation tested. We've been counting the screws in the joists, and the next stage is to do a thermal imaging of the insulation at certain points as well. And the reason behind that is once we tear up the felts, you're having to replace the lot. What we're hoping to do is to be able to overlay on the existing, but obviously you can't if the insulation is mouldy and damp, because it'll cause problems elsewhere. So what we're trying to do is go through this very carefully, because you are spending a lot of money on this. I understand it's taken a little bit of time, but we are getting there. You'd be pleased to know that we have got a lot of interest in the building, that there are groups coming in. There is more use of that building than there ever has been. So you'll be pleased to note that. You'll have seen the correspondence about the market hall being closed today and the work on the floor. Again, big thanks to colleagues on this, because this has been a really tricky project and really quite sensitive one, given I don't know aware of the history of the floor in the market. I think you may be probably better than I do. We put a lot of time and effort, and I think it's paid off. You know, the work has been done. It's been done to schedule, well ahead of schedule, Henry, hasn't it? To be fair, and we'll be open on Friday again. So minimum disruption to the traders. I think they've been relatively happy. They've done a good job. So the next stages now are improving the lighting. There'll be work on also just improving the access at the side there as well. So managing externally funded projects like this has taken a huge amount of resource gained from it, but it's not, you know, it's not easy money. And again, yeah, big thanks to colleagues, because it's taken quite a team effort on that. Post office, not necessarily a project, but it is a work area. I've got no real update, aside from the fact that the Cabin Lane franchise has been advertised. So that's the up there. I need to add in that we need to undertake a review of CCTV, so that will need to be a project that comes forward. And the reason for this is that the police are no longer taking on volunteers. So the volunteers at the CCTV station are police volunteers, and they're vetted according with that. There's a long background to that, but they're essentially police volunteers. As the police are no longer recruiting volunteers, it causes us a little bit of a problem locally. So I am going to suggest that the CCTV volunteers become Oswestry Town Council volunteers. I need to understand how we're going to vet them accordingly and carry out the right test, but at least that means that we can recruit and provide a little bit more resilience down there, and support for the CCTV coordinator. I think we need to have a review of the partnership agreement. We're already reviewing the maintenance agreements that we got in place, but I just don't want you to underestimate the amount of work that will go on into that. It involves, you know, consultation with the police, and we need to make sure that the partnership is set up right. There's some huge risks associated with the information from CCTV. You know, it's governed by the Information Commissioner Office. You know, it's subject to data protection and all of that, and we need to make sure that it's absolutely bob on. And it is, but I need to make sure it's resilient as well for the future. Okay. In terms of the Shropshire Council updates, I think I need a little bit of guidance from you. I think it's clear Shropshire Council's position on each of those. We've covered one or two. The next stage, if you want me to, is to progress with the right office at Shropshire Council, because it's not the estate. So this has come from the estates team. It's another team I need to be progressing these projects with. So, yeah.
Aaron, I just wanted to extend thanks again as well about the monies and time and effort involved in the market. Having sat here with Councillor Froggatt several weeks ago, we had a series of market traders that were very excited, very positive and very thankful for the work and effort that's going into improving their market and improving the safety, especially of the ramp going up towards the toilets. And I think even some of the longest serving traders such as Teresa are grateful and acknowledge the need to just close for the one day for the benefit of having that new flooring. And I think all of those additional things will make the market a better place for both our traders and our visitors. So thank you very much. It's very well appreciated. And we just asked to note that.
Well, I think there are
any
some
comments?
issues for you to have a think about if you want to, or I can certainly table the Shropshire Council stuff at a later date, or give you a further update.
Councillor Kerr.
I'm a little bit uncertain exactly what your directors to consider, Town Clerk. So, I mean, we've got an update, it seems to me, from Shropshire Council, which seems to be most things are moving forward, albeit very slowly, but there's no green light or red light at this stage. It's just all in negotiation. That seems fine. Well, it doesn't seem fine, but that seems to be where we are. I wouldn't wish to curtail the negotiations, and the situations on the projects seem to be, you know, well managed. It doesn't seem a need for action, but am I missing something because you're inferring that we need to discuss it? And
No, I think it's good that you acknowledge that that members acknowledge. Perhaps I should have offered a little bit more guidance on this, but that you note the update from Shropshire Council and just encourage me to continue with those discussions. I would perhaps ask you to consider whether you are satisfied with a leasehold transfer of assets that you take responsibility for, and whether, I understand it's policy, but if you're going to take on responsibility, that as part of the discussions you would request that these are done on freehold transfers. But that may be just my view.
Okay, Councillor Kerr.
I don't mind it's on the length of the lease, isn't it? A lease can be 2 years, can be 100 years. So it's about the length of the lease. If the lease is anything over 50 years, it's as good as a freehold as far as lottery grants are concerned, as I'm concerned. That's my view. Other people may have a different view, but you know, I really don't think there's much point ruling things out on that basis.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Chair. Very just brief question for the clerk, possibly for the operations manager. Just discussing, you mentioned the history of the floor in the market, where you know, the brief sort of version is it was done and was unfortunately then slippery, wasn't it? So it had to be scraped back up again. We found ourselves in a situation following that where I don't actually know the details as to why the company wasn't brought back in to rectify it, but we ended up with a situation where the floor was then, it's kind of down in some areas and not in others, and you know it just became patchy, didn't it? Are we quite confident in the quality of this work and all the longevity of it, and what sort of measures are in place to just ensure that in 6 months we're not there scraping it up again?
Yeah, so we have, thank you, and that was before my time here as well, so I don't know the full history. No, I'm conscious of all of that. We've taken very careful steps. So we've been using accredited contractors who have got accredited products and who have been carrying out very similar work and similar products elsewhere. So we've done our due diligence on it. The proof of the pudding will be when it's wet and that ramp isn't slippy. We've been in there. We're very confident that the job's been done well.
I think contractors have worked in other markets as well.
Yeah.
So they've got that aspect of a slightly different environment. Okay. Councillor Coburn.
Yes, just briefly on the freehold versus leasehold thing. Obviously, in an ideal world, it would be freehold, but I think the public would be concerned if delays were happening to projects that they wanted to go forward, because Shropshire Council and Oswestry Council were arguing over which public body should own the land, and so I would certainly not want delays while we haggled over that. I think that the key thing would be to progress as fast as we can.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so we've considered the report. Is there anything else, any other actions that we need to take on that one?
I don't think there are any actions, but you're happy to just note the report and the update given, and to encourage the discussions with Shropshire Council to progress.
And the CCTV.
And I'm happy to add this review of CCTV to the list of projects.
Brilliant. Okay, Councillor Rose.
The bus. How soon is the bus shelters likely to come?
Do you know, Henry? No, I'll get you an update. We are, you know, we've done all of our bit, so it is just chasing now. Yeah, I'll get you an update and include it in my next update to you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, councillors, are you wanting us to vote?
Yes. Well, yes.
All those in favour of noting the report and the updates. Thank you very much, councillors. Unanimous. Okay, move on to number 18. Report from the Town Clerk and Operations Manager with regards to the lead replacement contract and repairs to street lights contract. Is this you, Henry, or is this you, Aaron?
So I'll introduce this, but it has been joint work. Henry and I have worked on this together. Henry's done one part of it, and I've done the report and taken all the glory. I think that's how it works, Henry, isn't it? I think it's just really grateful to members for their patience on this. Particularly the LED replacement contract. It's taken us a while to get the specification right and to set out the tender process alongside everything else that we've been doing. But we've got there. The LED, sort of the regular repairs and maintenance contract, and not having that out to tender has been a long-standing issue for our auditors. You know, we've always been satisfied that we've had value for money from our provider, but we've never been able to prove it. And they've always encouraged the Town Council to carry out a procurement exercise. So we have, and we've carried out an open procurement exercise with a detailed specification, and we've gone through a process. I think the information is fairly straightforward. There were 5 tenders submitted. One was a bit of a shopping expedition from a provider didn't even provide what we were asking for. We've sifted them, and then we've carried out detailed checks. So I think I can say quite confidently that the process is robust. We've undertaken references of the higher scoring contractor, and we're confident of their ability to carry out the job. And so the next steps are ask council to make a decision on appointing tender date, because it represents certainly the most economic advantageous proposal. As I say, we've sought references. As we're not providing deposits for this programme, it is paid on when the work's carried out. I don't think I need to carry out a financial check. I don't think that there's any need for that. And certainly given the references that we've had back for them. So yeah, I'd ask you to appoint on that basis and note the next steps.
Councillor Moore, then Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just two points. First, a thank you to Henry for just around the lights. I've had a couple of issues with residents lately. He's been so quick at getting them sorted and up working again. It's made us as a council look really good and attentive, which I appreciate while we're dealing with these issues. The other is the issue with the lights on Cherry Tree Drive that we've been discussing. Obviously, there's the issue said there's currently with SP Power to do with a voltage issue. As we're dealing with that, how will that sort of factor in with the changeover to LEDs? Are we looking at changing the whole poles? And I'm just wondering if is there some sort of synergy or lack thereof between this changeover to the new LED system versus where we're at the moment with the current issue. If you don't mind me bringing Henry in on that, sorry.
Yeah, I'm happy for Henry to answer. I don't think there is a connection between the two pieces of work.
So the issue that we have with the voltage is due to the current of electricity going into the column, not necessarily the light itself, which is why the contractor that we asked to carry out the repair wasn't able to do so. It won't have any bearing on upgrading all the lights to LEDs, because that would be a case of swapping over the heads of the lights. But yeah, the one on Cherry Tree Drive that Councillor Moore refers to isn't the only one within Oswestry. Last count, there's 6 around the town that have the same problem, same issue. So it is a long, drawn-out process. Unfortunately, it's a case of the contractor reporting to SB Energy directly rather than us. Kind of cuts out the middleman as such on that process. But yeah, it is a long, drawn-out process, and the residents over around Balmoral Crescent last year will know how much disruption it also causes when having to dig up and lay new lines as well.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, can we just check with the contractor that these lights will actually be white and not blue, because the lights are fitting now, well, everywhere you'll see the blue lights in the villages, and they should be replaced with the white lights, but they're actually coming with a fault in it.
Purple, don't they?
Yeah, well, Bastchurch is full of it. Whittington's got a few now. They're all over the place, so...
Yeah, no, we've got contract specification in place, and they'll be delivering against that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, councillors, we are being asked to... Sorry, Councillor Jones, my apologies.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned because the difference in value from 114 down to 53 is a big way down. I mean, what were the 114 just messing around a little bit, or just seeing what they could get, or don't really want the work but put an offer in, or is 53 a bit low and we're going to get stuck with someone saying we can't do the contract and get stuck? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I would like to see 3 quotes and then see what, you know, but trust your judgment, but there's going to time when it looks good.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's a very, very, very good question. All I can say is that we've reviewed all the prices in detail, without wanting to go into the you know, we have looked at why the prices are high with one contractor, and the reasons why that is the case, and the labour costs in particular, and we understand the reasons why their labour costs, for example, would be significantly higher, and travel time and things like that. So we have looked down through the breakdown. We are confident that they can provide the work for this price, but we will double check that and make sure that is the case. You know, contractors have different advantages, don't they, depending on the teams that they've got and the resources they've got available.
Mr Davis next to me. I worked for the electricity Manweb and Scottish Power for many years. Might be worth consulting with Mr Davis just before we make the final decision, maybe. That give us some of your knowledge, or I don't know. I don't know much about electric, so.
Yeah, well, I've spoken to Councillor Davis about this. I reassure you, we've followed a really robust, open and transparent process. We've taken out references so that I'm confident that there's nothing to be concerned about. I think that if members want an input into the process, and we welcome that through that tender working group, is the way to do it. Yeah. So we need to make sure that that's working for you if you don't feel that as in this on this time.
Okay, so councillors, unless there's any further questions or queries, we're being asked to consider and approve the process that Town Clerk is suggesting for the replacement of the street lights. So, councillors, all those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Okay, we've got on to number 19, and we've got a series of reports. I think one of the really positive aspects is around the increasing income that we're getting from car parks, and both Aaron and I discussed earlier the fact that the car parks feel very full and they feel very busy, and I've certainly walked around here on Sundays thinking, why on earth is it so busy? And it really is. And last Saturday morning, it was a drizzly, dark day, but actually Oswestry Town was still buzzing and busy, and the markets were well attended. So I think it's a really positive statement for Oswestry currently, given our economic climate. We've got a series of reports, the budget monitoring one, the analysis of car park income, and the sundry creditors. Councillors, have you got any queries or questions? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I was looking through the budget one, and at 501 we've got Guildhall overhead expenditure 50,000 budget, which and it doesn't look like we spent any money on that. Are we increasing that budget at some point? Because we know this is a money pit, and we need to make sure we've got money aside when the push comes to shove, because it's going to cost us a fortune, whatever we do with this building.
Yeah, a couple of items in Henry's report, one being introducing secondary glazing and the other being the heating. We're lucky tonight that we're relatively warm. It hasn't been the case for the last 2 or 3 weeks with the heating. There is, we've considered budget. There is budget in there, capital expenditure and revenue expenditure as well. But yeah, I think it's a valid point about the condition of this, the amount of money that needs to be spent on this building.
Councillors, any further comments, queries, questions with regards to those 3 reports? Are we happy to note them on block? All those in favour, councillors? Any against? Any abstentions? No, brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to number 20 and Henry's report. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if you want to break it down. There's 4 items on here. Well, technically 5 items for discussion and some comments, please, as well. The first one being the vehicle fleet. So, just to give a bit of an overview, there's quite a lot of detail in the report for members to digest, really. There is a fleet of 5 vehicles, 2 tractors, a buggy and 2 vans. What I'm presenting today is just the financial aspect of the leases that we have with some of the vehicles that we have, but also we have a diesel van that the maintenance team currently use. Now, the diesel van is not carbon friendly, should we say, as outlined in the report. It's currently using 1.5 tonnes of CO2 per year within the area, and I'm presenting an option of the council to lease a same size vehicle, but electric. So then we would then have a full electric fleet aside from the tractors, which I'm still researching and speaking to various different companies about moving forward to have a fully electric fleet. So the details there. In summary, there is an upfront cost of just shy of 7,000 plus VAT, and then obviously an ongoing monthly cost. Now, with all the leases presented, they all come with a repairs and maintenance package. So therefore, should anything happen or should anything fail, we take it to the garage, they fix it, no extra cost to the council. advantage of having a lease versus buying, there is an option to buy, which I can get further quotations from there, but it's around a figure of 110,000 plus VAT. The advantages of leasing is that it does lower the cost overall. After the lease, you can change to a newer vehicle. So majority of these leases are 3 years, which also has newer technology. Now talking of electric vehicles, the technology is constantly changing, constantly adapting and improving as well. So 3 years time we might get a better vehicle. There's also no worry of depreciation as well when leasing a vehicle. And any issues with the vehicle, providing they're not caused by council users, is responsible of the person that's lending the vehicle to the council. So it's their responsibility to resolve, which then obviously again lowers any ongoing maintenance cost. So.
Okay. Do you want to look at each individual aspect? Yeah, okay. Councillors, any queries or comments with regards to the vehicle fleet and changing the last one to an electric one? Councillor Kerr.
Who was it?
Councillor Kerr.
Oh, sorry.
I said, yeah.
Sorry, I approve of that and think we should go forward. My question was just about charging now. We've got quite a lot of solar panels now on Palace Hall, but I don't know if we've got any battery backup for those. So they discharge directly into the grid, do they? So, I mean, I think it's probably all prudent to have a look at whether we should get some battery storage and use the battery storage to charge the vehicles, because we don't always want to charge the vehicles when the sun's shining, and even if you do, you won't be able to produce enough power at that moment in time. So, yeah, it's an ancillary point to it. I think it's prudent now. So we're starting to get more things that can use electricity to say about storage.
Brilliant. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, for the electric vans, I think it's a brilliant idea, and if we can charge them off battery backup or whatever, fantastic. If you're looking at the tractors leases, Aaron, I don't know what the leasing price is for 3 years, but there's some excellent deals on the moment on purchasing. So the small ones you have are coming in between £8,000 and £10,000. And second-hand value for the work you guys would give them, they'd be looked after, so you'd still get a good return on them. They're old in the money, but there are some really good deals. I'm looking at one myself, and there's a lot of different makes, but there are some really good deals on the size you've got. So it might, you might be a better option maybe to purchase rather than on a lease. You'd have to look at the numbers.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Davis. So I think you want things to vote it after every aspect.
I think it might be easier, mightn't it?
Yep, that's fine. So, councillors, all those in favour of the suggestion that we buy and lease an electric van? All those in favour? Perfect, unanimous. Thank you very much. Next one. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Carglass Park Welfare Facility. Members of the Carglass Management Group have previously discussed the need to improve the welfare facility. Members that may have been down the park, it is a bit of a storeroom really more than a welfare facility. So we have gone out and obtained some quotations for improving the welfare facility to a suitable standard. Comes at a cost of just shy of 9,000. Included in that price though, it was also includes an element of safety and security for the staff at present when dealing with money and taking money from members of the public. They're doing it through a door that's wedged open, so therefore there's no extra security for the staff handling money during the summer months. From reports that there is available, we can take anything between £300 and £500 on a weekend, so it's quite a considerable amount of cash within the pavilion. So having this safety hatch, be like a serving hatch, be able to do transactions via that way to a bit of extra security and safety for the staff. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we'll just Councillor Coburn and then Councillor Rose.
Yeah, well, I think given that we were discussing dignity at work earlier, I think this is a pretty good example of dignity at work, and quite apart from the benefit it will have in terms of the security, I think this is the minimum we should be offering our employees in the park area.
Agreed. Councillor Rose.
I agree, it's been a sort of very long-term problem, but I'm looking at another aspect. On the back of the pavilion where the steps are, the doors there, is there anything that can be done so that we don't need to have this silly bits of rope around the place which have been there for, a year and a half, which are supposedly there because young people go and smoke near the facility and it sort of comes through? Yeah. Is there anything?
Yeah, look into that, absolutely. We'll sort it out.
Okay, thank you very much, councillors. So, are we just asked to note and approve the spending of £9,000, which I think, as several councillors have suggested, is a incredibly important idea. My words are failing me this evening. Councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors. Next item is No More May. We have a member of the public who spoke about in public session regarding this. We've had a communication from the Middle Marches Community Land Trust to inquire whether the council would like to register and be part of No More May for 2025. I've listed there the open spaces that fall under the Oswestry Town Council's jurisdiction: Kyglass Park, Oswestry Cemetery, Bruggunton, Oak Street Place area, and also Castle Bank as well. So members asked whether they wish to register for the scheme and whether you wish to include all open spaces and to what extent.
Okay, councillors. Councillor Moore, Councillor Coburn.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm mindful to to agree with you. I think as we all know, there's a lot of benefits to No More May, but I do think that we do need to make sure we accompany the No More May along with some signage, sort of similar to what we were saying with the tree, to inform council, because it will inevitably come with a level of complaints. People, why haven't you mowed the park? Why haven't you done this? And it will potentially look like we're not performing our responsibilities when really we're performing a higher responsibility, shall we say. So if we can make sure that signage is in place, then that's why I would propose that we vote in favour of this, along with a social media campaign and a physical one.
So just add in a note, and I probably should. I think in looking at this, so we've got Kyglass Park, the central grassed area there, and we've got events planned for May. And I think we need to cut that as a parcel of land. I think as an exception, if that's okay.
Councillor Kerr, then Councillor Coburn.
I was wondering the same, and litter picking on Kyglass Park, but there are areas of Kyglass Park which aren't affected by that, outside the walking area, which could be left. So I would urge us to do what we can to comply with No More May, but then perhaps to define, as you said, the middle area where there's events and vehicles driving on, and you need to litter pick to exclude that, if that's seen as a prudent way forward, and we can see how well it works, and we can adjust it for future years.
Councillor Coburn.
Yes, I was going to say that we might want to treat the different places differently. I think obviously No More May is great, but it sort of tends to build up a little area of biodiversity, and then you cut it down and it's lost, or partly lost at least. And I wonder whether for some of the areas we could just make No More May part of a sort of wider rewilding of those areas. And taking Aaron's point, I wouldn't suggest that the centre of Kyglass Park would be that, but something like Bruggunton might offer an option where No More May might not be just we don't mow for May, but we do it as part of creating a wilder space in that area, and just generally have the signage, have the exemptions, but try and make it part of a joined up programme rather than simply not mowing for a month.
Councillor Upton.
Thank you. Are the two grassy verges which surround St Oswald's Well included in our portfolio as well, given that we are responsible and for the custodianship of that monument? Should they be listed as well if they are under our ownership?
Yeah. I think we've gone for the main patches, but yeah, that's certainly a patch of grass. It's actually difficult to cut. So I think you've got.
Councillor Rose.
Yeah, there's a few other areas, aren't they, like the one near your house, Aaron, that seems to be done too often. Seems to be cut. In Bruggunton, we've already got the area in the middle that's supposed to be a meadow, and I think it was mentioned earlier that it was Jude actually, that the staff need to be on board with this kind of thing. So they do need some kind of training around biodiversity, so that they understand why we're doing it and how important it is. So that we don't get the same kind of thing with a meadows cut at the wrong time, that it's, you know, because you can have pathways through. That could be bigger. Brooklynton's got plenty of space to do more. And presumably this will all go into our biodiversity action plan, which we're supposed to be populating as we go along. So this kind of thing can be added. Yeah.
Just coming on that, we've got our biodiversity policy says that we will review each area on a case-by-case basis, and then come up with a plan. So this is obviously part of that, and has given us a bit of a test actually for that. The other area I think possibly needs exempting is the parts of the cemetery, the modern part of the cemetery where we are carrying out, where we're currently, there are burials, and there may be, when there are funerals, that we may have to consider those areas as well. But I think there's enough in there as a policy. It's something that you support, and there are certain areas where it's not appropriate, and other areas where it should be encouraged. I think there's enough there, Henry, isn't there? I think.
Yeah, Councillor Maguire, last one.
Just a quick to say that I fully support this, but I do really strongly recommend that we get as much information out to the public as possible over it, because, for instance, at the moment, obviously during the winter months, not much mowing is being done. You don't normally need to do much mowing because the grass isn't growing very high. But, for instance, Brynaford playing field, the amount of complaints I'm getting at the minute where dogs are fouling in the field and it's not being cleaned up. Now, obviously, in areas like that, where dogs are being taken out for walks, they don't pick it up. You can't see it. So I was wondering if, and us councillors will start getting complaints saying, why is the grass not being cut? The dog mess everywhere, blah, blah. So it does need publicising fully, and perhaps when you do any signage in the area for No Mow May, there perhaps should be signs up there promoting dog mess clearing, because if it's long, you're not going to see it, and people are going to stand in it, and then we're going to start getting complaints as a council.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Thank you. Councillor Chadwick.
I was just wondering whether we could extend this as an opportunity to the local schools in the area to be involved with some of the rewilding of some of their spaces. I know Woodside, for example, used to have a little conservation area at the back. Again, more so for kind of getting the community on board, that actually if the kids are involved as well, they're more likely to be on board with it within the public spaces. So whether it could be aimed as a bit of a community project as well.
I wonder whether other people best placed. But yeah, I think we can write to the schools and say, listen, we're doing this.
Yeah, it's about extending the opportunity to them, saying we're doing this. Would you like to be involved? Like, let's get the kids involved.
I think most schools have areas. Right, but most schools have areas of, what do they call it? Forest school areas where that sort of situation does occur, but most fields are where they do their PE and play, so I don't know if it would be... Yeah, but I just wonder on the exercise side of things whether that would work.
Okay, I think we've had... Yeah, I was just suggesting that in the future we go to the climate change panel and discuss that in terms of our external links with schools and the environmental impact. That would be a really beneficial thing to do. Okay, councillors, we are, in terms of the No Mow May, then we are asked to note, discuss and approve. So, councillors, unless you've got any further comments, all those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Perfect. Thank you. Is that clear and concise for you?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. The final point for myself is regarding, this is Guildhall heating. There's two parts to it. The first part is a bit of an update. As councillors that were present during the January council meeting, there was no heating to the building. That continued for further 7 days. We've just had a recent spell of a week and a half with no heating as well. We have had a full survey done of the boiler. The easiest way of putting it, of how it's described to me, was to imagine your car has received a load of advisories on an MOT but can still run legally. But now, unfortunately, those advisories on the boiler are slowly starting to fail. and the council are spending money on repairing it where we could, council could potentially replace the system. So I'm currently seeking out quotations for a new boiler system, which I will then present to council at the appropriate time. With that, however, there will be a 3-week period where there will be no heating to the building to enable them to carry out said work. The second part of it is around secondary glazing. In March last year, we did have a decarbonisation review and energy efficiency assessment by the March Energy Agency, and secondary glazing was one of the top 3 options of a way forward to improve thermal performance of the windows by reducing air infiltration and heat loss via conduction. Having it installed would save an energy of just over 7,000 kilowatt hours per year. From a financial point of view, it's just shy of £2,000 a year, and also 1.3 tonnes of CO2 emissions every year. Due to the number of windows in this building, and there are a lot, it's 50 if you wanted to know, and because of the various in size, the cost, we have again gone out and sought quotations. The most economical, advantageous one comes shy of just 40,000, and the money could come from either the decarbonisation budget or the Guildhall improvement budget. So members are asked whether on their preferred way forward and whether to approve the project, secondary glazing project.
Councillor Kerr.
No problems with the double glazing. I think it's eminently sensible, probably a bit overdue. So I think we just need to crack on with that. It's a very practical way of reducing our energy bills. On the boiler replacement, I think we ought to take this opportunity to look at a heat pump to see whether it's at all feasible. And I'm conscious the radiators are quite old-fashioned around here and probably low in output. And so rather than just replacing the boiler and then finding that you need to replace the radiator sometime later, I think probably we ought to use this opportunity to get a quote for a air source heat pump system, using a hot water system but generated by an air source heat pump, and then the new council can make a decision over that. But I think it would be prudent to do that rather than just replace a gas boiler with a gas boiler.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
So it's a very quick question for Henry. The secondary glazing, which option is it? So obviously
there is somebody else talking at the moment. So.
Sorry, obviously it is a large expense, big building and such. That makes sense. But there are a few options out there, aren't there? I mean, the secondary glazing that you've been looking at, is that actually glass or is it polycarbonate? What's the quote actually for?
So the quotation is to have bespoke made timber frames, which will be installed on the inside of the building, with then double glazed panels put on now where there's windows that can be opened externally. There'll be the same mechanism on the inside, so it'll be sort of 2 windows to open to get fresh air into the building.
So essentially there'll be triple glazing in place because there'll be a new double glazing panel going in. Was that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think councillors are being asked to approve the concept of going for secondary glazing, yeah, and to look at the alternative to heating in terms of
Air source heat pump system, and just to get a price for that, which would probably include replacement of the radiators, may include replacement of pipe work as well, because you will need larger radiators. I don't know, I mean, at the same time, you probably need to consider what the life of the current radiators is anyway, because if you're putting a new boiler in with perhaps higher pressure, you might find the radiators will clog it up quite quickly.
Okay. One last point from Councillor Davis, and then we will go to a vote.
Yeah, if you're looking at heat source pump or some alternative, could you look at some running costs for 12 months? Because as wonderful as heat pumps are, they are expensive to run, and they might not be the best option.
Okay.
So just reassure you, we are looking at the whole host of options. We're also trying to see if we can get some external funding to support us through decarbonisation project as well. So we'll do that. You know, Henry's done a great deal of work on here. He has looked at various options, including air source heat pumps, but we'll put that into a little bit more detail for you when we pull together a report. I'd also encourage you, you know, that this building is 27, 28 years since it was renovated, and there's decorating issues to deal with at the same time, carpeting and all sorts of stuff. So we'll, you know, I think it's a time that we need to start investing in this and seeing it as an asset. So,
Are you also wanting us to clarify which budget pot we want it coming from?
no, that's fine. As long as you're happy to do the spend, don't worry.
Okay, I think, Councillor, I think
Don't
we've covered all of that. So if everybody's all in favour, against, fair enough. Thank you very much, councillors. Abstention. Thank you very much, Councillor Upton. Right, we do move now to the exclusion of public and press. So, Mrs Sandbach, as lovely as it's been, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Can we have a vote?
Are we all in favour of exclusion of public and press? Thank you, councillors.